Hi, today's lesson's on the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is like the epitome of solving all quadratics. This formula right here, which is negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, is used everywhere. And it can solve any quadratic formula, real, imaginary, doesn't matter. And so basically the steps to do this, if you want to look at this example, is you label a, b, and c like we did before, and you just plug it in the equation. So wherever there's a b, in parentheses, you put in that number. Wherever there's an a, in parentheses, you put that number. And c is always the one by itself in parentheses. So let me show you how to use this real quick. So let me rewrite it up in the corner just so I have it. So it's negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So all we got to do is label. So a is 4, b is 7, c is negative 15. If you notice when I'm labeling these, I'm actually keeping the negatives and positives with it. So now I just plug in the formula. So negative 7 plus or minus square root of 7 squared minus 4 times 4 times negative 15 all over 2 times 4. Now, what I would recommend to solve this, pretty basic, is do these ones in your head. So negative 7 is negative 7. 2 times 4, 8. You can do that in your head. Really easy. Now, this part under here, you gotta have to plug into the calculator. So I will model that once. So parentheses 7 squared minus, not negative, minus 4, parenthesis 4, parenthesis negative 15. Hit enter, you get 289. I personally like to write that on the side right here. And then what I do is I'm going to go ahead and square root it just to see if it can reduce. So I get 17. So since that is a whole number 17, we can just write 17 here. And now since we have all numbers, we're going to go ahead and separate it. Negative 7 plus 17 over 8. Negative 7 minus 17 over 8. So I get 10 over 8, which is 5/4. And then this one I get negative 24 over 8, which is negative 3. So those are your answers, 5/4 and negative 3. So now to show number 2, it's the same exact story, okay? But notice it doesn't equal 0. It must equal 0 before you can use the quadratic formula. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3x squared minus 41x plus 110 equals 0. And now I'm going to go ahead and just plug those in. So negative 41 plus or minus square root of negative 41 squared minus 4 times 3 times 110 all over 2 times 3. So doing all this, we get positive 41 plus or minus 6. Now, if you do this all in a calculator, you get 361. And if you square root it to verify it, it actually is a square number. It's 19. So from there, we do the same thing. We separate it. 41 plus 19 over 6. And then 41 minus 19 over 6. So we get 60 over 6, which is 10. And this one we get 22 over 6, which is 11 over 3. And those are your answers, 10 and 11 over 3. And that's how you use the quadratic formula. Go ahead and try this problem. Go ahead and try this problem. All right, now we're on to the discriminant. if you notice, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. If you look at the quadratic formula, the discriminant is underneath the radical. Now with the radical, it gives us a lot of information. If we square root a positive, which is greater than 0, then we get a positive radical. We get a normal square root. If it equals 0, the whole thing will just be 0. If it's negative, we get an imaginary solution. We get an I in there. There is no real number solution. Okay? So basically what's happening here, here's some examples. If it's positive, that means this thing will cross the x-axis twice. That's why it has 2 real number solutions. If it equals 0, we get a special case where it hits the graph once. That means there's going to be one answer. And if it's negative, it means it's floating in the air, meaning it doesn't touch the x-axis at all. But, I don't know if you can imagine this, but it'll rotate up and hit the x-axis. That's why there's imaginary numbers. So you could say there's no real number solution, or you could say there's 2 imaginary solutions. So let me go ahead and show you how to use the discriminant. So to find the discriminant, first thing we need to do is get everything equal to 0. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the 8 over. So I get negative 8x squared minus 8x minus 2 equals 0. And so now here's my a, this is my b, this is my c. So I'm just going to plug it in, b squared minus 4ac. So I get negative 8 squared minus 4 times negative 8 times negative 2. If I plug that in, I get 0. So that means, since it equals 0, there's only one real solution. So same thing with this one. I'm going to go ahead and start skipping steps. This will be positive 10 when you subtract the 4. So now from there, we get 3 squared minus 4 times negative 4 times 10. If we plug that in, we get 169, which is positive, so it has 2 real solutions. And last one, of course, negative 10. So we plug that in, we get negative 10 squared minus 4 times negative 7 times negative 10, which gives us negative 180. Which has, since it's negative, there are 0 real solutions. That's the same thing as saying there are 2 imaginary solutions. Go ahead and try this problem. Try this problem.